According to Roman legend, the memory palace technique was invented by Simonides of Chios about 2,500 years ago. The technique is simple. You transform an idea or fact into an image, and then you place it in a physical location and then interact with it. This brings concepts to reality and works with the five senses to enhance memory. Since then, it has been used by orators, memory experts. I think the record for the most amount of digits memorized in 5 minutes is 616 by Queen Ru. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. And individuals who are interested in learning and applying concepts as fast as possible. That's called meta-learning or accelerated learning. Our purposes for using this technique, however, aren't just to memorize numbers or even to memorize facts. What we're trying to do is use this to create behavioral change, to develop new habits, new ways of thinking, and new ways of seeing and perceiving reality, which is a big concept that I focus on in the work that I do with my clients, as well as the Qualia game, as well as Project 5. Imagine never making the same mistake twice, or never having to go outside of your daily routine to practice new skills. That's what daily internalizers accomplished. So what a daily internalizer is, it's a memory palace image that is located on an object that you can then interact with on a daily basis, such as your toothbrush. We can use them to lock in mental progress, to remind ourselves of new habit options or new behavioral options, as well as to train new skills at a higher frequency. They alter our daily reality by building upon daily routines. This means that you will never forget your highest levels of mental achievement and progress. If you have a great idea or you have a new habit you'd like to form or a new thing that you'd like to create in your life, you can use this technique to lock it into your daily routine. No more text reminders, no more relying on little tiny things to get you to remember to do something good. It's in here and in your environment because mostly it's stored in here in your associations with these objects. So the 5-minute practice here is to build a memory palace image onto your toothbrush to remember this option of accelerated progress and accelerated learning, as well as to start to practice it bit by bit every single day so that this can gradually transform your life. So I've used memory palaces for years to transform knowledge into new habits and behavioral patterns, and have developed my own personal technique by combining it with methods from behavioral and cognitive psychology. This is done by using memory palaces to simulate real experiences by using mental practice. Studies have shown that as far as the brain is concerned, mental practice is exactly the same as real world or physical practice, so long as it eventually is solidified by real world practice. This was demonstrated within a study on individuals trying to learn the piano. So long as participants practiced mentally via imagination throughout the week and had at least one physical practice to solidify that mental practice during each week, what they found was that they learned at the same rate as those who practiced physically throughout the entire duration of the study. So while one group was mentally practicing, and they could do that in any type of scenario or setting, going through and hitting the keys of the piano in their mind without any actual physical practice, and the other group was actually physically at a location practicing using a physical entity like the piano, they both learned at the same rate as long as they both had one practice session each week where they were physically doing it. If you combine memory palaces with mental practice and then include it in your daily routine, what you get is accelerated progress because now you don't have to go outside of your daily routine to learn and internalize and practice concepts that you believe are important for the progression of a skill or life in general. So what this means is that when we're learning a skill or a new ability, we can bypass normal amounts of frequency by building it into our daily routine. And this is especially effective when the thing that you're practicing for is a rare event and you can't encounter it on a daily basis. Now with daily internalization, we can do it on a daily basis. We can use it for rare events that we might not be able to practice every single day by mentally imagining that we're in that situation while we're going through our daily routines. And of course, we get tons and tons of frequency because of that daily practice that we have and we don't have to go outside of our routine. My goal is to teach people this technique, have them set up certain practices, and then once they set those practices up originally, they just run automatically every single day, regardless of whether they set out independent time to practice it by itself. We don't need that using this. It can definitely be beneficial and we can build upon what we have learned, but it's not necessary and will lead to progress. So that's why just 5 minutes can do a lot to create personal change, because now you're impacting the rest of your month, year, or possibly years in the future just by doing one thing for 5 minutes. It will then be a mental trigger whenever you interact with that daily object. This practice is only the tip of a very large accelerated learning iceberg that I've been building up for myself over the past 9 years, but it will get you started in applying this technique on a daily basis. The aim is to build one meta daily internalizer. Meta means something that's applied again to itself, so a daily internalizer that creates other daily internalizer practices. This will help you start to create other daily internalizers when you need them to learn a new skill, to build a new habit, or to lock in some type of mental progress or mental realization that you've realized is an important part of life. We don't want our life-changing realizations to slip away into the realm of the forgotten. We want to continue to learn every single day, even when we have trouble carving out and setting aside the time for doing so. If you practice this skill that I'm about to teach you every day in some small way while you brush your teeth, what you'll have accumulated is up to or even more than 24 hours of practice using this skill, or another skill that is important to you. And how that adds up is 2 minutes every day that you brush your teeth, which is twice per day, accumulates 4 minutes of practice per day. 365 days of the year as you're doing this practice, what you'll do is gather up about 1,460 minutes of practice. That equates to 24.3 hours, which is over one straight day in practicing something new. And the reason why I start off with teaching individuals by using brushing their teeth is because you do it in the morning, and that sets your intention for the day, changes your behaviors throughout the day because you started your morning off thinking in a mindset that will affect the rest of your day. And then also you're doing it before you go to bed so that as you sleep, your brain will be churning over this and figuring out how you can get it into your life. The total time of 24.3 hours doesn't even include the other daily internalization routines that you could be building. I have over 10 routines that I use to practice new skills and behaviors, and I conservatively estimate that I practice about 20 minutes per day on average without even trying. This totals to somewhere around 7,000 minutes or 120 hours spent per year, which alters my conscious and unconscious thoughts and behaviors during the rest of my waking and sleeping life. I've been doing this for over 5 years, and by now it's a natural and effortless habit. I don't have to go outside of my routine to make these practices happen. 20 minutes out of the day, I'm practicing anywhere from 10 to 100 different skills briefly in a way that impacts my conscious and my unconscious and changes the way that I interact with people, with my work, as well as just random thoughts that pop into my head and random ideas. And it just helps you get a better understanding of your mind and how to create your mind into something that works better with your reality, that leads to a more intentional lifestyle as well as a higher quality life. Now, to the 5-minute practice. Imagine that you have a toothbrush in your hand. I'm actually gonna go ahead and take the toothbrush I use. So hold it in your hand right now, hit one hand, and maybe you can use 2 or 3 fingers to hold it with one end. And then take your other hand and then lightly feel the bristles. You can maybe hear the sound on the video. Just imagine that your fingers are rubbing over the bristles. This creates something in your mind, creates the image of your mind to help you get started. Even if you don't have a toothbrush right now, it'll help trigger that sensation and memory later in the future when you do brush your teeth. So take the toothbrush, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the palace that's in the article or the video, I'll probably put it in the corner right here, and what we're gonna do is place it on the bristles of the toothbrush within your imagination and within your reality as well. So go ahead, grab it. I got it right here. And then I'm gonna set that palace right there. The mosque is sitting on the end of the toothbrush in my mind and also part of my reality, because your imagination creates your reality whether you realize it or not. So now that we have the mosque on the toothbrush, what we're going to do is we can go ahead and touch the top of it, maybe you poke one of those little spires that sticks out of the domes, as well as flick it off. It just flung off and dropped down to the floor. I'm gonna grab it and put it back on. So now that we've created this, what we can actually do is jump into the memory palace. To imagine yourself in the palace to make it more of your reality again, you can do a little hop, and then you are in the palace right now. You can just see yourself looking at a huge mosque ahead of you and also feeling the bristles of it with your feet in your imagination. So then after you have gone through that, what you can do is attach it to a word or sound. The sound or word of the day for this practice is going to be dayint, which is daily internalizer shortened to make it more concise, which is easier for your memory to utilize. And when you say this word, dayint, what it does is it'll also form associations with everything else we've done, touching the toothbrush, feeling it on our feet, looking at the mosque, as well as brushing our teeth. So now that we've done these practices, what we could also do now is actually perform the practice. And the practice for this is to either simply strengthen the mosque, the idea and image and imagination of the mosque being on the toothbrush, so you can recall any of those things we just did, or you can add some more. Maybe you're running through the mosque, maybe you're jumping around inside of it. This is all done while you're brushing your teeth. The second thing that we can do is we can complete the actual practice. So the practice of the day is to build a new memory palace image that encapsulates and allows us to create another image in practice within our life. And you could place it maybe in the middle of the toothbrush, on the point at the end, or maybe having it hang off on some side, or you can put it on the back end. So the practice for this one, because it's meta, it would be to create another internalizer, but as you do this over time, what you'll find is you'll enter into a flow of 3 different options instead of only 2. So for this one right now, we have 2 things we're doing, practicing strengthening it right now. So go ahead and take a moment to strengthen the palace by doing something with it. And now what you would do is start to create the formation of a new image. So what I want you to do is actually put a giant question mark right here on the other side of the bristles, or maybe in the toothbrush, to start the formation of that image. And again, interact with the question mark. Maybe you touch the giant period thing at the bottom of it, or you can feel along the curve of the question mark on the toothbrush. And it's up to you to decide what that practice is, what that new habit is to practice. And when you do go through that practice, what you can do is recall the past 24 hours of your life. How could you have applied that one practice to that scenario? If you want to create a speaking habit, for example, which is to maybe ask a new question, you could think, okay, what conversation could I have asked that question in? What would that be like? And then actually imagine yourself in that scenario, talking to that person, asking the question. You can also project forward into the next 24 hours or the next day that you have, and imagine yourself asking that question as well. So now that we've gone through that initial process, we've done a bunch of things to build this into reality and remind you to go through this practice the next time you brush your teeth. The next thing that I'll talk about is, what are you going to be doing on a daily basis with this? Now that we've built this up in your mind, we've taken the time out to do it, I want the rest of the process to be natural. So anytime you brush your teeth, just go ahead and say or do or imagine anything that you remember. If you didn't remember it, it probably means that it didn't stick very well, and that's okay. That's why we have a lot of these things, so that we can see what mentally sticks the most. So if you really did connect with running through the mosque, that memory palace, or you connected with touching the point of it on the top of your toothbrush, then you can simply remember that. If you also remembered dayint and saying that word as an internalizer, that's what you could do as well. So if you remember one thing, great. If you remember 2 or 3 things, awesome. Do or say those 2 things very briefly. It should only take a second. Dayint. And then what the goal is now is to actually go into the practice while you brush your teeth. So then as you're brushing your teeth, you're creating a new palace, you're strengthening current memory palaces that you've created, and you're practicing your daily internalizer practices while you brush your teeth for the duration of the 2 minutes, which will link you to the rest of life because you're imagining, again, experiences going backwards and experiences going forwards that you could create, creating new opportunities to bring this into your reality. I think it's important to mention here too that if you don't want to go through the practice, you daily end, and then you're like, I'm kind of tired, I don't want to do this, then don't do it. What we're going for here is longevity. We want to be able to have this be a part of our lives for a long period of time, and we don't want to dread it, so you shouldn't make it a chore. If you do make it a chore, what you'll realize too is that eventually you'll lose that creativity aspect that gets you enjoyed in doing this, feeling like a little kid, like you're playing and creating a new world, which you are. And if you lose that, you're going to lose one of the most important parts of this process, which is play. So I never force myself to do a practice if I don't want to. I only do it if I really want to do it. And if you create the right internalizers and choose the right practices, I guarantee you that you will want to do it more often than not, even if it's just a small little flash of the mind's eye to that one practice, and then you're letting it go. Dry.